Welcome everyone. This is episode 10 of the Connectedness Podcast, and we have a special guest, Lisa Chadderdon, and she is going to tell us all about life coaching, finding confidence, clarity, and connection. Friends, welcome back. This is a space where we get real about what it means to grow, connect, and to keep showing up as our most authentic selves. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to my friend Lisa Chadderdon. She's a lawyer who made a big life pivot to become a life coach. We are going to talk about what led her to make that change, what life coaching actually is, and how it can help people move through the kinds of challenges that we all face at different points in our lives. We'll get into things like low confidence, people pleasing, and the deeper patterns underneath those struggles. And we might even do a little bit of role playing at the end and show what a life coaching conversation can sound like in real time. Whether you've ever thought about working with a coach yourself, or if you're just curious about how people create more purpose and balance in their lives, I think you're going to find a lot of insight and maybe even some gentle truth bombs in this one. So grab your coffee. I got mine, or I got my tea over here. Get cozy, and let's jump in. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me in my podcast. I'm very happy to have you here. I will do a quick intro of how we know each other, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. So, Lisa, I joke that I manifested Lisa out of thin air. And the story is like I was new in Charlotte, and I had made maybe one or two friends, but those friendships didn't go very well. Like I felt like they weren't the right alignment for me. And I was journaling one day and I started writing all of the like, what do I want in a new friend? And I wrote things like common interests, smart, kind, integrity, and, shows up on time, does what they say they're gonna do, not flaky. And then the next day I met Lisa at a French meetup. And also we had seen each other at Kizomba dancing meetup. So it was like, oh, maybe this is the universe's sign that Lisa and I need to be friends because we have two common interests, French and dancing. So the rest is history. So Lisa, I'd love it if you don't mind telling us and me and the audience about you, your background, how you decided to move into life coaching. And also, let's not forget to talk about Gather, the meeting that we co-host together under Filled Cups.
Sure. Thank you for that introduction. Yes, it was, I didn't realize how much you had manifested that original meeting. That's really cool. But yeah, so I guess everyone knows now I speak French, or I try to. I love dancing kizomba and also bachata and salsa. But let's see, my background is I started my career as a business writer and editor. Um, Back when I lived in Boston, I wrote case studies for Harvard Business School for a few years, worked for Fast Company Magazine and Inc. magazine's website. And then after that, I ended up going to law school about 10 years out of college. I got my law degree, and I've been a lawyer for almost 2 decades now. Mostly did employment and litigation, and some business litigation. And then due to a series of events in my own life that led me to do my own, kind of go on my own healing journey. My life kind of got completely upended when I was in my, early mid 40s. Got separated and divorced after an almost 20-year marriage. Had a kindergartner, lots going on. And through that process, found life coaching, which I really didn't know that much before. And all of a sudden, it was like the universe sort of aligned, as they say. And this, the purpose I've been searching my whole life to find, what I was meant to do, was kind of dropped in my lap. And this just, pulled all the pieces together from what I'd done in my prior careers. And so here I am.
Sounds like you are going through a major life transition and you found life coaching. And then you decided to follow that path. Just for the audience's knowledge, Lisa and it was actually Lisa's idea. You came to me, I think it was early this year, and you kind of said, what if we were to host like a monthly women's group, and I think you were calling it like coffee and conversation or something like that. But
Yeah,
I'm
coffee
really,
coaching.
or
Yeah.
coffee and connection. I'm really glad we didn't go with that name, by the way, because I found like 23 different coffee and connection meetups on like Eventbrite the other day. Oh my God. So anyway, we ended up coming up with a different name, which is Gather, and it's a monthly women's circle, and we've been hosting it, I think, since April or May.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And it's been wonderful. Honestly, that's one of my favorite events that I do on Filled Cups. And for real, because not just because it's with you hosting, but the women who come, they're so open and vulnerable and they're willing to connect. And I really do feel like by the end of the meetings, people are friends and like they know each other. They know the important things about what they're going through right now, and that makes it so that people can connect very genuinely and vulnerably and quickly. So I'm really happy and proud of that monthly circle that we came up together.
Yeah,
So,
that's been a
so
really great group.
yeah, thank you. And Lisa, you do your magic and you help us there. It's great. Uh, so if you're local to Charlotte and you are interested, look up Gather Women's Circle or Women's Group in the Filled Cups website. Let's talk a little deeper about what drew you to coaching.
I think it, I think when I found life coaching, it, like I said before, sort of put together, it took a bunch of these pieces from my prior careers, from my life, and it drew a through line through them that I hadn't really seen before. So, for example, I actually did a series of, what do you call it? Tests or meetings. I met with a psychologist. This was going back probably 10, 12 years ago, who specialized in career,
Hmm.
did a lot of work with athletes. And the whole idea was I was trying to figure out at the time, what do I really want to do in my life with my
Mhm.
career? Am I on the right path? I thought I knew what I liked and what I was good at and what I was looking for, but I wasn't sure. I was at this very kind of uncertain place in my life. So we did all of the personality tests, the career tests. We did like, I don't know, 6, 8 meetings or something. And I went through all of those. And at the very last meeting, we pulled all of that data that we had together that we'd put through. And she asked me a question. She said, okay, let's think about anywhere from 3 to 5 different moments in your life. Try to pick them from different periods of time, from childhood, teenage years, college, during your careers. Moments when you remember feeling just fulfilled, moments of either joy or when you felt like this this is something I could do forever. I love this.
Mhm.
And after I came up with those moments, we put them all together and she said, okay, now let's come up with a couple of words that describe all of those things.
Got
And
you.
whatever those words are, that's what you have to make sure you have in whatever it is that you do going forward.
Okay.
And the 2 words that we came up with at the end were service and storytelling. So I kind of had those 2 things in my mind after that. And so when life coaching, I say all of that just to say that when I found life coaching, all of a sudden, not only did I connect with it in terms of seeing how incredibly helpful it was for me, but also that this was something that I had a lot of the skills already to do and that I'd been doing in some ways through my prior careers as a journalist, as a writer and editor, which was a lot of it's service and storytelling, sort of asking questions and understanding where people are coming from and telling their stories. And being a litigator is the same thing. It's understanding what's going on, collecting the information, and then understanding the people, especially with employment litigation, what's going on, what motivates them, and how do we move people towards a compromise or towards a settlement or whatever it is. So life coaching really it is service and storytelling and understanding human behavior and all of that all packaged into one. And it just made so much sense um, when I came across. I don't know if that answers your question or makes sense, but
Yeah. No, I mean, but I'm surprised. I didn't think you were gonna say service and storytelling. I was thinking you would come up with coaching or or like about advice or whatever. But no, it's cool how you drew that uh those 2 words to life coaching, and that's wonderful. So what Can you share like what is life coaching and how is coaching different from therapy or like mentoring, for example?
Right. Life coaching is, everyone, I think, will give you a slightly different definition of what it is. But for me, it is working with the ways that we are thinking about things, with our beliefs, with the narratives that are running through our heads that often we're not even aware of, and how those things are driving our current results in life, our current circumstances in life, and how can we work with that to get us to a better place, to a place where we'd like to be instead of where we are right now. And the main difference between therapy and coaching is that therapy, in addition to having to have a certain kind of degree and certification and all that stuff, it looks backwards
Mhm.
primarily. So it's looking at your childhood, it's looking at other things that have happened in your life that have impacted you. It looks at, obviously mental health and mental illness, but it's generally looking back so you can understand why things are the way they are for you, or why, you are the way you are, however you want to put that. Coaching is more forward looking. It's not looking back to understand. It's more, where are you right now? And how do we get you where you want to be?
Got you. Got you. So like have are you ever in a situation where coaching starts to feel like it's going into therapy territory and then you're like, you might want to go talk to a therapist about this or do you run across those sometimes?
I haven't had that happen. I think, I think it's a good question. I think a lot of that would probably be pretty evident early on, and
Mm,
I would direct someone to therapy if that happened immediately, because they really are different things.
yeah. Yeah.
It's not that uncommon, I don't think, to be doing both at the same time. If someone's already progressed to a certain point in therapy and they're continuing with therapy for different reasons, but coaching can give you tools to actually implement some of the things that you learn in therapy. So they can
Mhm.
actually work in tandem really nicely.
That's a really great way to look at it. I totally agree. I think that they can do and can work in tandem, and I see how they're different. So, as a life coach, can you please share your approach or your philosophy that you approach life coaching with?
So I start from, it's kind of a combination. I do a lot of mindset work, like a lot of coaches do, which by that I mean sort of really starting to notice your brain and notice what thoughts your brain is throwing up at you. Because for the most part, most of us live our lives just going through, and our brain is throwing up thousands of thoughts a minute, right? We don't even notice them, but that's what drives what we do. So it's becoming aware of that and then seeing what we can do to be more intentional about our thinking in those areas where our thoughts are not actually serving us.
Hmm.
So it's also combined sometimes with some kinds of somatic work, which is kind of the nervous system work. So a lot of times, various types of nervous system dysregulation, anxiety, that sort of stuff, makes it difficult to get into our thoughts and start to shift them. So things like breathing techniques and things like that, depending on who I'm working with, will incorporate that into it, or at least become more aware of it, because the body-brain connection has so much impact on what we do. But it's kind of that combination with a primary focus on mindset work, but also knowing that how we think is not the only thing that you have to look at.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. So you're working on mindset, you're looking at potentially some somatic aspects about regulation so that you can be intentional about rewriting or re what maybe the right word isn't rewriting, but intentional about your thoughts, so you can identify the thoughts that might not be working for you and then be intentional about maybe having different thoughts or kind of re-scripting your thoughts, if you will.
Yes,
Does
that,
that
that's
sound
that's a big part of it. Yeah, and
okay?
and a lot of it too is because you can't just all of a sudden, snap your fingers and change how you think, right? That's
Mm-mm.
kind of a process. But the main goal is to really become more aware of it, and then through coaching and through the questions that I ask, identify those thoughts, but also just um, learn to first not beat ourselves up for having the thoughts that aren't useful, because we all have them. It's our it's inevitably our brain trying to protect us in some way, whether it's from uncertainty, from embarrassment, from the things that don't feel safe to our lizard brain, right?
Hmm.
And then sort of learning to adapt to say, okay, it's okay that I have those thoughts, but they're not helpful. So how can I be more intentional about approaching these certain things in a different way?
Got you. So here's some examples. I full disclosure with the audience, I asked ChatGPT to give me some examples of what people go to life coaches for, and it came back with 5 examples. We will talk through each of them, and then I'm gonna ask Lisa for help with one of my own personal challenges that I'm having right now. But one of the examples is low confidence, someone who maybe they're doubting themselves after a major life change, like maybe a career a change, like a layoff or a breakup, or maybe they're in a new job and they're not feeling confident. Maybe they have imposter syndrome, for example, which is very common. Lisa, like how would you help this person reconnect to their strengths and like rebuild their trust or their self-trust?
Yeah, there's a lot there, and depending on the situation, I mean, the first thing, like we were just talking about, would be to sort of identify really what are the thoughts that are creating that sense of imposter syndrome or lack of confidence. Is it I'm not good enough? Is it um, everything is always bad, nothing ever goes my way, I'm on a
Mm,
stream of bad luck, this thing, why are these things always happening to me? What are the thoughts and stories that are coming up, that
mm,
are creating those feelings, and then starting to really look at them and ask, are these things true? Where'd you get these stories from? What stories do you want to have instead? I mean, if you don't like the thought you're having about not being good enough, about everything always going wrong, what would you rather be thinking, and how do we get from where you are right now to thinking those other things?
mhm.
I think it's kind of hard without working with a specific example. I think that
Specific
that feels sort of
person. Yeah.
loosey-goosey a little bit, but when you dig in and start to really get at this specific situation and pulling on those threads, you start to really see how we end up self-sabotaging because we're telling ourselves ahead of time what we think is going to happen. And when you've decided ahead of time what's going to happen, most of the time you create that negative result that you thought about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. And I know it's hard. I'm putting you on the spot, but those are actually good examples. Like I can talk from my personal experience, my background. There was a time earlier in my career where I suffered from imposter syndrome really badly and low confidence, low self-esteem. I can totally relate. And I heard a statistic that like 70% of people have imposter syndrome. And a lot of times the people who are actually really high achievers and high functioning and like get a lot of stuff done and are good at their jobs are the ones that suffer from imposter syndrome the most.
And it's,
And
it's funny you say that because I think one of the things that can be really helpful is starting to realize how many people feel exactly like you do. Because I think when we're in that space, it feels like everyone around us is so confident and has it all figured out, and we're the only ones who are in this awkward place of not knowing what to do or feeling like we don't belong. And it's one of the reasons I love spaces like our Gather meetup,
yeah.
where people start talking and everyone realizes I'm not the only one who feels like this. And
Mhm.
it starts to make it, you realize it's really kind of normal, and you feel less imposter-like when you realize everyone around you has the same sort of feeling about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Once you're like, okay, everybody suffers from this, then this is like, it's not real. You know what I mean? Like we just need to be aware and like you said, like kind of regulate and train ourselves to not believe those negative beliefs, basically. um,
But it's also, remember, that too is our brain protecting us. That
yes.
is our brain saying, uh-oh, someone, you might be the outsider. You might not be good enough. All of this is like a danger signal to the brain, right? You might become an outcast. And if you're an outcast, that is not a safe place to be. You want to be in belonging with the people around you.
Mhm.
And so just realizing that our brain is doing what it's designed to do, but we can tell it to take a seat.
Yeah,
right? Like, I don't need your protection right now. Thank you for protecting me, but I don't need your protection right now because I got this. I know what to do.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so here's one that I'm very familiar with, people pleasing. This is it turns out I didn't know this, but this year I've read a lot about people pleasing and codependency. It turns out a lot of women struggle with people pleasing and codependency, and it, it's kind of almost like we're indoctrinated to become people pleasers. And so the example here is like a person who has says yes to everything and everyone and ends up exhausted. So how like, and you, if you want, you can pretend that's me because it's very normal. Like how would coaching help that person
Yeah,
set boundaries?
I'm a recovering people pleaser as well, so you're in good
Are
company. I mean, it's so interesting. People pleasing, it's we think it's about even the name itself, people pleasing. We think it's about other people, right? We think it's about trying to make other people happy. And I think that's one of the reasons why we, especially as women, we lean into it in a lot of ways, right? Because we want other people to be happy and to do things for them and to help other people. But at the end of the day, people pleasing is not actually about other people. It
Mhm.
is about us. And that I think is one of the big shifts that has helped some of the people I've worked with see it in a different way. It's just that when you are saying yes to something that you don't want to do to please the other person, you're not actually trying to please the other person. You think you are. But what you're doing is trying to make sure that they don't think something bad about you,
Yeah.
right? You're afraid that if you say no to something, they're not going to like you. They're going to think you're not participating, whatever it is that they want you to participate in, that you're not a member of the group, whatever it is.
Mhm.
You don't want that negative thought on their part about you. So
Mhm.
starting to realize how much of it is really about our desire to not feel that on discomfort with how someone else will respond to you. And that's kind
Yeah,
of where that's where some of the unpacking begins.
definitely. So thank you. And I don't know that I'm fully recovered, but I am on my way. I'm on a recovery program, if you will. Like I got
PPA, People Pleasers Anonymous.
people pleasers anonymous. Like I'm at a point now where I do say no to things and I try to do it in a way that's, polite and respectful and all that. And I don't um obsess too much about whether people are going to be upset with me or not. And I've read a lot, I've learned a lot about this topic, and I'm trying to put those habits into practice of, protecting my boundaries, protecting my capacity, protecting my rest and my time, so that I can be at my best and so that I can not exhaust myself, right? And yeah, of course I want everyone to like me, that's, I think everyone wants people to like them, but I'm okay if somebody doesn't. You know what I mean?
And I
So,
think that's an interesting moment to ask too. Is this true? I mean, is it true that someone's not going to like you because you say no?
right. It's not necessarily true.
Right. I think in many cases it's not true, especially if you're dealing with friends or people who
Yeah.
you know. I mean, if anything, they probably don't want you to do something that you don't want to do.
Exactly.
But we assume that they're going to have this negative thought. So really asking that question sometimes, is that really true? Are they going to think badly of me? And are
Yeah.
these really the people who are they really my friends if they're going to think that way if I speak my truth?
Right. Right. Yeah. Good point. Thanks, Lisa. So the next example is feeling stuck or directionless. And in this example, a client has checked all the boxes, like they have a career, a family, a stability, but they are feeling disconnected from joy or purpose. And I know, it's hard to think about this without talking to the specific individual, but have you seen this type of thing in coaching? And how would you go about helping that client?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen that. And I would start with looking at what those check boxes are
Yeah.
and where they came from. And starting to ask questions like, whose check boxes are they? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times we have these check boxes, especially early in our life, and we think they're ours, right? We think that they're the things we want. And when you get to the place where you're really stuck and you're like, I've checked all the boxes and something's off. When we look back, we realize maybe those weren't. our own check boxes, right? They're the ones that were given to us in a sense. We thought we wanted them because it's what society expected us to want, or our culture expected us to want, or our family, or friends, whatever it might be. And we hit a point where we're like, okay, so what's if those I checked those because I was supposed to in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the check boxes what are the different check boxes that if you could redo it now, do you think would create that sense of fulfillment? And sometimes that's a very difficult thing to define because you have to unwind all the other check boxes first. And we're trained kind of not to think about what we want, especially as women. We think about what everyone else wants. And it can feel so there's an unwinding around the sense of feeling selfish to even
Yeah.
think about what it is that we want as opposed to what the people in our lives want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what actually happens when we start to think about what it is that we need to fulfill us, when we do that, it opens us up to do so much more for the people in our lives. But it's really hard to see that until you're in the process of getting there.
Yeah, that would be such a wonderful session, right? For you to have with a client, and then the person would come out of there going like, "Oh my gosh, I want this and I want this and this is really and I need to unlearn these other things."
Those light bulb moments, let me tell you, I live for it's one of the reasons why I'm a coach in some ways. Having that light bulb go off and seeing it in someone's eyes, that total transformation moment, oh, that is
Yeah,
so beautiful. I love those moments so much.
I bet. I can feel the energy through you, even though we're on Zoom, we're not in, I can actually feel the happiness coming from you. It's amazing. So, oh, getting a little. All right. So
What are we
next
talking about?
example is fear of change. So somebody who wants to pivot, maybe they're really unhappy at their job, for example. I actually myself was in that spot, and I have several friends who are in that spot, unfortunately. Thanks, corporate America. And but they're paralyzed about the what ifs. What if I don't have money? What if I can't pay my bills? What if I don't save for retirement? What if I end up destitute? uh, how can
All the catastrophic thinking.
how can coaching help bring clarity and courage to this person?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is let's question all of those thoughts. Okay, not all of them, but let's pick one, right? I'm going to be destitute.
Mhm.
Classic catastrophic thinking, right? First of all, what are the odds of that happening? Probably really not very good. But just for fun, let's go there.
Yeah.
Let's go there. You lose your job, you lose everything, you become destitute. What are you going to do? Let's actually think about that, right? What would you do if the worst happened? And to start to really think about what would you do? Because we are so much more resourceful than
Yeah.
we realize. And when we're in that state of worry and concern and worst case scenario, we lose touch with that resourceful part of us. So it's sort of digging in. Let's lean into those fears and say, what would you do? Because at the root of all of those is lack of self-trust.
Oh, yeah.
We don't trust ourselves to figure it out.
Right.
And you are capable of figuring it out because you've never not figured it out before. We forget that, right? Like the reason you're sitting here today, the reason I'm sitting here today, we have faced some hard things
Mm-hmm.
and we figured it out. And whatever you face going forward, you will figure it out. And so that's sort of where we'd start is some of those things. And then from there, we're like we were talking about before, work on some of the thoughts that will help you get to that place. But kind of releasing, you're not going to not be afraid. You're not going to lose the fear, but you're going to say, you know what? I have this fear and it's okay. I can figure this out.
Yeah. I love I remember now because I've been exposed to you during these gather meetings where I've seen you do this. I've seen you talk to other people in the group about this concept of self-trust and trusting that your future self is going to figure it out no matter what, right? And before I was doing gather with you, I that wasn't something that I thought about or even came to my mind. Like and now it's like every now and then, if I'm having some kind of challenge, I go, "What would Lisa say?" And I'm like, she would probably tell me that I can figure this out no matter what.
And you absolutely can.
But it's so true. And it's all about trusting yourself, trusting your abilities. Like, especially from a professional standpoint, if somebody, we do see a lot of women gather, and sometimes we see somebody who maybe is like a really great at their job, but they also are super insecure and low confidence about their abilities, and which is ironic, right? And unfortunate, but the if that person thinks about how good they are at their jobs, like, or how good they look at everything they've accomplished, look at their track record, why couldn't they take that track record and project a future success, right?
Right. And I'm so glad you said that because that's something that a lot of people don't do. And it's so important to do is to recognize your successes,
Mhm.
not just the big ones, but the small ones too, to recognize and celebrate them. And I think that's something that, again, it's something, especially as women, I think we learn to believe that's selfish somehow to do and that we shouldn't spend a lot of time on it and that we should be moving on to the next thing and not celebrating.
Mhm.
But it's easy to forget all of the successes and all of the positive things
Mhm.
and we just focus on the negative, and that does not help move us forward.
Nope. Nope, not at all. And so something that I've seen people recommend, and I tried doing this a long time ago and I forgot about it, but it was having like a brag file or a portfolio of all the things you've done that are like that you're proud of, so you can remember when you're feeling low. You can be like, hey, I did this, I did that.
Yeah.
Look at me. I kicked ass. Let's be honest, right? Like,
That's actually one of the things that a good coach does
yeah.
is remind you of the things that you have accomplished. Like I do a 6 month program and we'll do check-ins, every month, every 2 months, and I'll look back at my notes and I'll say, when we first met, you said this, or you were doing this, or thinking that this was going to happen. And the shift, like how much has changed, and how often people totally forget that that's where they were only a month or 2 or 3 ago. And so having someone there to remind you not only of the successes, but of the progress, because we devalue the progress in our own minds. We ignore it even. And that's as you see it, that gives you the motivation and the incentive to keep doing the hard things and making changes and trying the new stuff. So
Yes, good point. Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad we're having this conversation. So, okay, so the last example I wrote it down because we actually have some ladies that have come to gather, and they are all in a similar life phase where they've been through a divorce, like a major change in their life, and now they're having to rebuild their lives. And they some of them have actually openly shared with us that they are struggling to find their new sense of identity. Who are they now that they're divorced? Would you have any nuggets of wisdom there, Lisa, for that one?
sure. I mean, one is feel all those feelings first, right? Like I think a lot of people will fight even having those feelings because they're big and they're hard and it can feel scary to just let yourself feel them. But if you don't, it's going to block you from moving forward at all. So first, just let yourself feel them,
Yeah.
really, and feel through them. And that actually is some of the work that we do in coaching too, is
Mhm.
really learning to feel your emotions and to really let your body feel them. I'm the kind of person I used to think that I was really good at feeling my emotions because I would cry and I understood them and I thought I was feeling such big things. But as I started doing some of the coaching work, I realized I had never learned how to really like allow those feelings to flow through my body and out of my body. They all kind of stayed in my head.
Yeah.
So they weren't actually going anywhere. So learning to really feel through them. So that would be the first thing is have you really grieved? Have you allowed yourself to feel all those normal feelings? But from there, starting to dig into what are a lot of times there are stories again that are under it, right? Like there was a life that you imagined for yourself, a storyline that you
Mhm.
thought your life was going to follow. And all of a sudden that's been completely disrupted, right? Like it's like the thread has been cut. So what do you do now? And we tend to look back and say, it's not what I wanted. So now I'm just drowning. Instead, a reframe is to shift and say, okay, well, this means that anything is possible, right? Like I get to start fresh. And if I'm
Mhm.
starting fresh, that on the one hand, that can be scary. On the other hand, that can be fabulously exciting because you can turn your life into anything. But you
Yeah.
have to imagine it first. And that's the thing that if you've been, especially if you've been married for a long time, you haven't spent much time, if any, imagining what your life would look like if it wasn't what it is right now, right?
Yeah.
You haven't spent a lot of time imagining your life without this person or without a marriage or whatever it is. And that act of reimagining takes a lot of courage, but it also can be really exciting. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's sort of the process to get to that place.
It does. So like, do you actually, once you get, what, say you're working with one of these ladies, and do you, after you have them feel their feelings, grieve, do you actually help them reimagine their new life?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Um, yeah, what do they, it's starting with those questions of what do they really want? And you may not, you may think you don't know right now, right? And there's a lot of stories that may block you from the knowing in a sense,
Hmm.
right? Like there are a lot of times we have these stories about what we're supposed to do in these situations or not supposed to do, right? Which shows up in, I mean, how many times have you talked to say, to a woman or a friend who's recently divorced and when am I supposed to start dating? What am I supposed to do? Like all of these supposed to's. And
Yeah.
anytime you ask yourself or someone else, what am I supposed to do or what should I do? Those are stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are things you've heard or some you assume there's a way to do it.
Hmm.
And there's never only one way to do it. There's always a buffet of options if
Right.
we allow ourselves to see it. But we can't know what's right for us unless we allow ourselves to consider the buffet of options. And so that's one of the things that coaching does is asking, I'll ask the questions that help clients get to their answers. They have them inside of them. They have those answers already. It's just accessing them through the right questions and through allowing themselves to actually imagine those things.
Lisa, if only we could just have you on our shoulders all day, like little Lisa on the like the cartoons with the angel and the devil on the shoulder. Yeah, you'd be the angel.
Oh, thank you.
So you told me earlier we should do an example from your life. So one of the things I was gonna bring up with you, this is a fresh, hot off the presses, Lisa. I spoiled it with my Instagram video from Tuesday where I was talking about the cups. I don't know if you saw that one, but
I have not seen this. You're going to get to surprise me.
okay. And I'll put, so basically I had four cups on the video. One was health, like physical health. One was mental health. One was social health. And the other one was financial health. And in my little video, I was talking about how, like, I was asking my audience, are you taking care of all four areas of your life? And I was being honest. I'm like, my physical health, I would say a little bit like over halfway full, but I could be eating better. I could be exercising harder. My mental health similar. Like I sometimes forget to journal, but I'm proud of myself of all the work I'm doing to connect with myself and get recentered if I get dysregulated. And then my social health, I filled it up all the way to the top because I've been social butterflying like crazy lately, and I explained how it's a priority for me in this phase in my life. I want to connect with others, right? And then my financial cup, I only filled it up about halfway because I've made some changes that I'm not focusing on money as much, or I'm not earning as much as I used to. And that's okay because I'm prioritizing the other things in my life. But on the physical health piece, in the past, I had issues with overeating, which led me to be at a bigger weight. And I've had, a weight loss journey that has had ups and downs. Like sometimes I'm doing great, and I'm losing weight and I'm keeping to my calorie budget and I'm doing all the things that usually work for me, like healthy habits and calorie tracking. And sometimes I'm slipping, like it starts to come up, like the weight starts to come up. I start, emotional eating again. And that is a phase I'm in like right now. But basically, I'm trying to do some work on myself right now. As why am I doing this? Like, I came so far. I lost all that weight. I was feeling great. I was at a lower weight. Why, like, am I self sabotaging?
Why do you think you're self-sabotaging?
Oh, Lisa, I knew you were gonna answer me with a question. I knew it.
What was the first thing that came to your mind when I said that?
Yes. So the self-sabotage, why am I I actually did some journaling this morning, and I think it's fear of uncertainty
Hmm.
because my life is going through transformation, right? Career-wise. And there's an irrational part of me that is like just freaking out, going like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's your brain trying to protect you from that uncertainty, from the unknown. Yeah. So of course it's going to go to something that feels comfortable, which is
Right.
past patterns, things that you know.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any tips or suggestions for people who struggle with this?
Yeah. First, I think you're doing a lot of the first things that I would suggest, or some of the things you're doing, which is the simple, oh, I say simple, it's not simple. Being aware of it, right? Being
Yeah.
aware of the pattern, working on not beating yourself up for it, which you're actively working to see the good and not just beat yourself up for it. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's you can tell that there are some thoughts underneath where you very much still are, because I think that's where all that emotion is coming from, right? Like you feel like you shouldn't be doing this. Like you shouldn't be eating unhealthily. You shouldn't be, feeling like you ignore your physical health. And all of those shoulds, those are the stories and those are the beating yourself up, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I would ask is, what's the what if you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now? What if this is part of the process? And what if that's okay? Right? Like when you have so much change going on in your life, what if it's okay that some things slip for a little while? What if
Yeah.
the slipping is normal and part of the process?
No, I think you're right. I think so. I like the questions. It's a really hard question to embrace and to say, oh yeah, let me just, it's fine. I'll be fine. Because of all the history and the baggage related to weight,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yep.
Like if it wasn't weight, if it was something else that maybe wasn't so loaded, no pun intended, pun intended. Like if it wasn't because weight is as you probably can, you can imagine, for a lot of people who deal with weight issues, um weight is not just physical, it's also emotional, right? And
Absolutely.
so there's a part of me that's like, well, if you just relax and accept that this is how it is, then you're gonna keep gaining weight, and then that's,
Ah, did you
yeah.
catch that though?
Yeah.
Your brain went from accepting that this is where I am right now to that means I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to gain weight.
Mm-hmm.
Accepting that this might be part of the process doesn't mean not doing anything about it.
Mm.
It's kind of just saying, this is where I am. This may be part of the process, but it doesn't mean letting go of staying aware of where you want to be and working on taking steps towards it. It
Yeah.
means not beating yourself up because your habits have slipped a little bit, but saying, okay, today, right now, for the next hour, I can decide what I'm going to eat or not eat. I can decide if I'm going to step outside and go for a walk or not. and
Writing
just
it down. Hold on.
staying more, staying intentional in the moment, but not beating yourself up for the fact that this is where you are in that process.
So can
Does
you
that make
repeat what
sense?
you said earlier? Acceptance doesn't mean that you're not gonna do something about
Right.
it.
It doesn't mean inaction. It doesn't mean that the future of what's going to happen is predetermined and that you're going to gain weight or you're going to, whatever you fear slipping into, right? It's just accepting that you are where you are right now. And also that the past isn't going to necessarily repeat itself because you're here.
Yeah,
That you can choose to do it differently.
thank you. Yeah, I wrote it down. This is good, Lisa. Because sometimes when there's these kinds of words like acceptance, which I personally I've been on a self-compassion, self-acceptance journey, and there's the two words acceptance and forgiveness. I see a lot of times, and they're great, but they're both misinterpreted sometimes as just letting yourself go, like just letting things, like if I'm saying I'm accepting things the way they are, there is a tendency to interpret that as then I'm just gonna, it is what it is, I'm just gonna let
Mm.
things be what they are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or, and also same thing for forgiveness, like, oh, I'm gonna forgive you, and that means it's everything's okay.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
it's important to remember that acceptance doesn't mean inaction, and I guess forgiveness doesn't mean everything's okay either.
Right. No, it's more about, I think it's more about allowing and
Hmm.
about letting go. So it's kind of like allowing for the circumstance to be what it is right now. It doesn't mean that, again, you're not going to continue doing it. You're not going to let it rule your life.
Hmm.
But it is what it is. You're going to allow it to be what it is. But that gives you the choice of what to do with it.
Hmm.
And same thing with kind of with the letting go. Forgiveness, it's not about the other person. It's about letting go of their hold or the hold of whatever they did on you,
Hmm.
that they no longer control your mind drama about it. They no longer control your feelings about it. It's that letting go and just allowing it to be what it was because you can't change it.
Yeah.
And then, but embracing what you can do and shift going forward.
Yeah. This is deep. Yes, I bet the podcast listeners didn't expect this to come up, right?
These are the dangers of having a conversation with me, Fernanda. You know that?
I know that. I know. But you also know that I don't mind crying in public. So,
You did ask for coaching here right now. As you know, I will never coach without permission. So
yeah, no worries.
I
So,
love you, my
okay.
friend.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you. I Some closing reflections that we're going to go through here is what we both learned from this conversation. Well, I guess I'll start. I learned that life coaching is about listening to the thoughts that we're telling ourselves, but with a discerning ear to question those thoughts sometimes. If are those thoughts helping me? If not, then are they true? And in the case of the weight situation, don't assume that just because it happened in the past it's going to keep happening. And accepting my circumstance doesn't mean just letting it go and being like laissez-faire, everything just roll down the hill kind of thing. It means I can accept it, but I also have a choice of how to progress, right? um
You get to rewrite the story if you choose to.
yeah. And what have you learned anything from this conversation, Lisa?
Of course, I always learn from our conversations. No, one of the things you reminded me of is things like definitions of words, things like acceptance and forgiveness, and remembering that a lot of times those terms they come loaded, and people come
Mhm.
to them with different meanings and different definitions, and it's always important to kind of understand what people mean by it when they say it, because we do tend to have different ways of approaching things.
Yeah, that's true. Especially I'm a second language English person, and sometimes I doubt whether I even know what a word means, even though I'm pretty fluent and I've been here forever. Like, I still have my moments of what does that word mean again? Like, am I using this right? I don't know.
Yep.
And the English language is beautiful and complex and nuanced. So,
And
yeah,
bizarre.
yeah, bizarre.
Often it's very bizarre.
Yeah. Lisa, one piece of advice you would share for anybody who's considering coaching or anyone, or maybe somebody who's going through a major life change?
Ooh, those might be different answers.
Yeah.
Those are different answers, I would think. For considering coaching, well, first, definitely consider coaching.
Yes.
I'm biased, but I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Um, and if you don't know that much about it, I mean, yeah, do your research, but also do some consult with coaches. Most coaches, like myself, will do free consult. I do a free hour consult. And it's, like when I do them, it's no pressure. I don't have any expectation going into a consult call that someone is going to be a client. I'm not there to convince someone
Hmm.
to work with me. It's more about explaining what coaching is, showing how I envision that coaching could help you, but then at the end of the day, helping you come to a decision about whether coaching right now is right for you.
Yeah.
And I know not all coaches approach it that way, but a lot of coaches do. And just through having that conversation, not only do you learn more about what coaching is, but also you get a sense for who the person is and whether you'd want to work with them. Because, like a lot of things, like working with a therapist or a lawyer or a doctor, whoever it is, you want to have a really comfortable, good connection with that person and you want to feel comfortable talking to them. And the only way really to do that is to do some calls. And that can feel scary getting on the phone or on a Zoom with somebody who you don't know. But sort of just kind of getting through that moment of making that call and doing it, I think that's a really helpful thing.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then what was the other thing you asked?
The other was going through a major, if somebody is going through a big life change.
Mm, I think like one, yeah, work with a coach for sure. But also sort of thinking about what the stories are that you're telling about where your life should be, where it was supposed to be, and how much those stories are holding you in place and maybe
Mhm.
not allowing you to move forward or not allowing you to even envision a different thing, and how the stories are maybe blocking you from changing because you're worried what people will think or that this isn't what you were supposed to do. And
Mhm.
just sort of like journal on it if you're into journaling. Not everyone's into journaling, but maybe talk about it with a friend. But just sort of ask some of those hard questions. We tend to avoid
Yeah.
those hard questions, especially if we feel like we don't know the answers. Usually we do. We have some sense of the answers in us. We just are kind of scared to go there.
Yeah.
But most of the time, once we start to go there, it actually empowers us to move forward and motivates us to go a little farther. It's not as scary as we fear it's going to be.
Yeah, and the thing with life changes, because I mean, I just went, I'm going through one. One of our friends is going through one right now. Uh, I meet every day, it seems I meet somebody who's going through a life change. And it doesn't necessarily mean negative. It can be a really positive life change, right? Like, and it's about being comfortable with the self-trust that you were mentioning earlier, that you are going to figure it out, and that, yes, life is difficult, stuff happens, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to be okay. We're going to come out the other side, you know?
Yep. And so much of that too is working on getting better at being comfortable with the uncomfortable, because
Yeah.
you're right, life is going to continue to throw unexpected circumstances our way and transitions our way and changes. And the more we get used to that feeling of discomfort, the more we can move through those things faster and get to the other side.
Nice. Very nice. So let's talk about this freedom rewrite workshop that you're starting. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I am co-facilitating. It's a 6-week workshop. We meet Sundays for 2 hours for 6 weeks in Charlotte in person. It's with Molly Barker, who is the founder of Girls on the Run. I don't know how many of the listeners have heard of that. Um, but that's a nonprofit that's now national, I think international. It was founded right here in Charlotte by Molly. And the workshop is all about a lot of the things we've been talking about on this podcast, which is it's for women and it's unpacking all of those narratives and stories and the things that keep us stuck, the things that stop us from moving forward, and the things that we know we can grow into, but we're scared to, about the transitions and facing them and what to do with them. It's all about doing that with a group of women who can all work together to unwind those things and start to rewrite the stories.
It sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to put it in the show notes along with your website and your information for anybody who's interested.
Super. And I'm available if people have questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. So yeah, I'm sure you'll have all the contact info in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, friends, that's it for today's episode. A huge thank you to Lisa for joining me and sharing her story so openly, and for doing some on-the-spot life coaching with me. I love the conversations like this because it reminds me that growth isn't always about fixing ourselves. Sometimes it's just remembering who we are underneath all the noise. And if something in this chat resonated, maybe you saw yourself in the examples, take that as a little nudge to get curious and see what's going on underneath. You can connect with Lisa through the links in the show notes. And as always, I'd love to hear what stood out for you. Send me a message on Instagram, share this episode with someone who might need a little encouragement right now. And thanks, as always, for listening, for growing with me, and for being part of this space where we can all keep getting a little bit more connected. Until next time, take care and keep your cups filled.